Hello and welcome to another episode of Neptune Novelties. I'm Hasti Amiri, I'll be your host, and I hope you enjoy a couple of minutes away from all the other parts of your life and just entering a new one with this episode. Now today we will be talking about a new book, of course. This one is called The Do-Over by Lynn Painter, and it's young adult, and I would say this is a book that's a little different because you can actually read it as a teenager. And this is a Valentine's special, so the book that I chose to talk about, The Do-Over, is also a Valentine themed book. Now first, happy Valentine to all of the hopeless romantics out in the world, and I hope you have a beautiful romantic day and night, whether it's you with your friends or on your own or with your significant other that you love. Now let's get into the book, shall we? This book takes place in a high school, and it's a love story about two teenagers, Emily and Nick. A while ago, I tweeted this where I said that currently stuck in a time loop thing. And the reason behind that was because I already read a book which had the time loop plot. So time-traveling plot, I would say. Not that it was science fiction, it was more personal and romantic, of course, because in this podcast, all that I ever talk about is romance and love. Which our previous episode was about the book, The 7-Year Slip, which had a 7-year time plot. Now, in The Do-Over, it's happening on Valentine's Day, like I said, because it's a Valentine's special. Now, Emily is a character which is really organized, and she's a little bit of a control freak, and she wants the best things for herself, which I'm really happy that she has this quality. And she has divorced parents that do not get along. Her parents, they were really in love when they were young, and they got married right after high school, so high school sweethearts. But, well, their divorce ended up being messy, and Emily turned out to be the kid who was trying so hard to be people pleaser to make everything easier, especially for her parents. And the divorce of her parents, they end up having 50-50 custody. So sometimes Emily's with her mom and sometimes with her father. But genuinely, she mostly lives at her father's house, where he's also married again and has two other sons. So Emily has two brothers from her father's side. So this perfect Emily, people-pleasing Emily, ambitious Emily, she has a boyfriend, the guy that everyone in the high school want to either be with or be that guy, Josh. And of course, since Emily is a control freak, she plans out her entire day, which is really special to her. And she writes on her to-do list what she's gonna do that day. And the last one on the list is to say those 3 words to Josh. Unfortunately, that day doesn't go really well, especially when towards the end of her time in high school, she sees Josh with his ex, where they get into his car and they are about to go for a coffee run, and they almost kiss, which is a terrible thing to witness, especially on Valentine's Day, especially with everything that Emily had planned. But the highlight of her day isn't exactly that. I would say it's the fact that she gets into a car accident, which everything is fine, but in the morning when she's driving to school, she crashes, well, let's say bumps. She bumps into Nick Stark, who is her lab partner in chemistry, but well, Nick isn't much of a talker, so their conversation isn't really cool, and they don't really get along, Nick and Emily. And that's how her day starts, and I told you how her day continues to be. She loses a fellowship because of an accident that the team has made. She sees her boyfriend almost kissing his ex, and then when she comes home, her father talks to her about a possible move to a different state. They live in Nebraska, and her father has a promotion coming up, which means he will have to move to Texas. Now, with all of that madness, she goes to bed. And then the next morning, something strange happens. It's Valentine's Day again. That's the time loop thing. She gets to live Valentine's Day over and over again, with the same stuff happening, but well, her approaches changes to that. So every Valentine's Day, she mostly focuses on trying to get her boyfriend not get with his ex, so that's her main focus. And that happens a couple of times, which she does not succeed. Now one day, which happens to be the last day of the loop, which she doesn't know it will be the last day of that time loop thing. She decides to be completely herself, a day of no consequences, thinking that tomorrow when she wakes up, all of it will be gone. So she wears something she was always scared to wear, but she wanted to. And the same thing goes about her makeup and the way she talks and the way she acts. That's when we start to see Nick Stark being a bigger of a person that she thought he would be. And they spend their entire day together, ditching school. If you're in school, don't ditch school, please. Just read the book and enjoy it. So that day, the day of no consequences, goes really well. She says those 3 words to Nick. Again, thinking that he's not gonna remember it, right? But then tomorrow when she wakes up, it's the day after Valentine's Day. The loop has ended. The day of no consequences turns out to be the biggest day of all of the consequences that she could ever experience in her entire life, especially given the fact how much of a good girl she was. Well, you know me, I only read happily ever after, so I promise you that this is also a happy book. Now for the quotes, I ended up liking more lines than I thought that I would. But I will read 3 quotes. first one is that you matter and your happy ending will come. Sometimes the wait is just longer in real life than fiction. Page 7. Fate is for suckers, love is for planners. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that. It's more of a question of whether you agree with that or not. And something that I think people pleasers would kind of hope to hear others say it is to burn some cities down with your rage. The biggest thing that I noticed about Emily's time loop thing is that sometimes we focus on the wrong thing, even if we are given the chances to do the right thing over and over again. For example, Emily, she was so focused on keeping her boyfriend that she couldn't see anything else in her mind. Nothing else about that day mattered more than that. Which, well, turns out that Nick was the thing that she had to get. Nick was the star of the time loop thing. She had to figure out something new, someone new. Even though she was aware of the day repeating itself over and over again, she still did not notice that until the very last minute. And I think that in life sometimes we do that as well. We spend a lot of energy and time and love on things that we think should be corrected, things that we think should change. But in fact, the main focus should be on something else. Perhaps there is someone new that we should focus on. It's something new that we have to do, rather than trying to fix something that's not exactly good for us, no matter how much we want it, no matter how perfect it seems on paper. Deep down, we always know. And I would like to hear your opinions if you read this book, or tell me what would you do if you had to relive Valentine's Day over and over again. And what is something that you have tried to fix and ended up realizing that your focus should have been on something else entirely? That was all I had for you today or tonight. If you're an author and would like me to review your book, you can always contact me through email. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and for following this episode as well, and all the love and support you give. I truly appreciate it. Happy Valentine's Day once again, and laters.